Hi, this is Pat Iyer with Writing to Get Business, and today we're going to be speaking with Charla Anderson, who has written a book, and I've brought her on the show to talk about how her book fits within her business plan. Welcome to the show, Charla.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Pat. This is a huge honor to get to talk with your folks here.
I would like to have our audience know a little bit more about you, and I know that you've shared with me some of your background, which is quite varied. You've identified that you spent 34 years as a flight attendant, and you're a trainer. You've become a certified trainer in the Ziglar legacy, as in Zig Ziglar, I'm sure. You're a published author. You're a coach. You're a speaker. You're a radio TV host, an Olympic torch bearer, and the author of a couple of soon-to-be books. So first of all, let me pull back and say, what was it like spending 34 years working as a flight attendant?
The very, very best job in the whole entire world for me. It was with Delta Airlines, amazing company, amazing people, and it was amazing. I keep using the word amazing, but I loved that job. I felt like I had raised my kids. They got to travel, and as long as you're comfortable with your child care, it's a pretty good job for a mom to have a hotel room a couple times a week by herself. So,
Mm-hmm.
it gave us a lot of opportunities. And I did carry the Olympic torch for Delta for the Salt Lake City Olympics in 2002, and I would say I was an award-winning flight attendant because I also was the Chairman's Club honoree, which is the top honor that Delta gives to their employees. I think 100 per year or something like that. But they were both peer nominated, so it was a great job. Loved it. Retired in 2008, so I've been retired quite a bit now. So.
Well, it certainly is very different today. There are many flight attendants and pilots who are not able to work because of the almost total grounding of the fleet of planes.
And yes, and I'll say that in two ways. I mean, when I started, it was a job that, I mean, we served a meal or served something every single leg. I mean, I had really strong wrists because we would put glass dishes and run trays, and we didn't have carts to run the meals at that time, all those years. So, and then when I ended up going international. Of course, we had carts and all that, but that we worked hard while we were on that airplane, but it's still a great job, and I just know that they don't have quite as much physical work that they're doing on the flights when they are working. Yes, and I'm sure everybody, right now we're all kind of taking a break from our normal lives.
Well, let's talk about your job. I mean, let's talk about your book. And I know that when you and I spoke before we sat down to record this podcast, it had an unusual title. And I wondered if you could tell our viewers who are watching this on our YouTube channel or listening to it on the audio platforms, first of all, the title of your book, and then what led you to write that book?
Well, I'll just show you my little book. It's called Candy Bar Hugs. It doesn't take much to make a difference. Where is it? There we go. And it is a small book. I call it a business card book. It came about because, well, first of all, I wanted to write a book. I was at a book writing workshop, and I like the idea of a small book, a business card book, and I think it's been very effective because, well, and the story came out, I was in the habit of offering to buy a candy bar for the checkout person at at Walmart or grocery store, and offering to buy a candy bar. What's your favorite candy bar? And do you mind if I give you a hug? And so stories came out about that. And, this was a few years ago, and you'd hear people buying big bucks for the people behind them, in the line, which was really grateful, but I started thinking about the checkout people typically are probably the lower wage and need, really would appreciate something. And it's a very small thing, but it makes a big difference. It's kind of in that pay it forward movement that that I just think is amazing. So I remember one story that really touched me, and that was a lady, I offered her a candy bar, and she said, that's the nicest thing anybody's ever done for me. And I was like, a candy bar? Ooh, do you mind if I give you a hug? And when I hugged her, she broke down, started crying. She said, you have no idea. I just found out my mom is terminal today. So everybody has a story, right? We're all human. We're all trying to get through life as best we can. And when we offer just a smile, a touch, a hug, a candy bar, whatever, we can really make an impact in our world. And of course, people watching also are lifted. So I believe it really is just a small thing to help raise the energy of the world. Another little quick story, and it wasn't about the candy bar, but I had a stove repair guy, and I really spoke into his life in a way. And as he was leaving, I offered a hug, and he said, this is the first hug I've had in over 5 years. People are connected, but we're not connecting. And I would just like to encourage. That's what this is about. It's about encouraging people to connect and love and love. I might add, I pull this out. My tagline is, I'm a connector and collector of fascinating people. Mm-hmm. And so everybody's fascinating, right? And I just saw that card laying there, was like, so I collect people. I collect, and my job, my gift, I guess, is more an encourager. I'm an encourager. So much that, anyway, book is encouraging, and hope that gives a little bit of a hint of what we're talking about here.
And then tell me about the process of selling the book, distributing the book. Did you self-publish it? What happened after you wrote it?
I actually finished it in the end of 2017 and got it published amid amazing chaos in my life. I'm still surprised how that all happened. But I did self-publish it, and I used Fiverr. And in my book, I referenced the editor that I used, and also the formatter. I really love that formatter. His name is Salmi, I think, Salmi. And he was a great formatter. You have to get it in certain style. And back then it was Create Space, which is now merged with Kindle, which leaves one step out of it, thank goodness. But I just, I wrote it, and it's only about 4,000 words. So it didn't cost me a lot to get most of those things done. And I would say probably less than $100 or so to get most of that outlined. And then we got to go to Kindle, and he put a Kindle cover on that. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that hard. I had recommendations for a couple of different people, and anyway, I muddled through it. I figured it out, and when it came out, it was so exciting to have this little piece of me in my hand like that. Mm-hmm. So I self-published it. And you ask about distributing. I call it a business card book, and I believe that, can I say a joke about it? Okay, so I have a little joke about it. If you're a guy, just put it in the bathroom. It's a 25-minute read. So it's just kind of a fun piece of it, because it is so short, but it really is an impactful message.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then in terms of using this as a business tool, how did you envision that process? What was the reality once the book was available?
I never really had, and this is interesting because I never really have marketed it very much. It has been something that I love that it's small enough just to carry around, and I give it to people when I'm led to do so. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's more, uh, it costs $5.55 on Amazon, and I think my cost, if you're, since we're talking about business writing, writing books, I think my cost is $2.15 that they charge me. So I'm making about, 50%
Mm-hmm.
or 100%, maybe whatever, however that math works out. And so um, I buy them or I actually have a benefactor that offers some. I get some of them. Uh, Given to me every so often, and I just love being able to offer them when I'm talking with people. It's an encouragement, and after I give them a hug, now we're doing elbow bump elbow bump hugs, and they call, I usually am scratching the back when I'm hugging. So I also did that with a lady the other day. I just scratched her. I said, "Do you mind if I scratch your back since I can't give you a hug?"
Mm-hmm.
Did I answer that question that you were asking about, yeah,
You did.
distribution and stuff? It's really something that I'm loving to do. I really want to get the audiobook out, which should be out any minute, and be able to offer that as well.
Now, did you do the audio narration yourself, or did you hire somebody to do that?
I did it myself. I prefer I prefer that when I'm listening. I really kind of prefer the author to do it if they can. So I did it myself, and fortunately, had a friend that found a really great studio, and we just did it um, just in January this year. So it was out a couple years before I just got the audio book
Mm-hmm.
out. And then because of this slowdown right now, it's not been approved yet. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is this the only book that's in you?
oh no. I already have started another book that I really think is going to be an impactful book. It's called Split Second Transformation, Change Your Words, Change Your Life, 31 Daily Practices. And I believe that our words matter so much. And I know that when I say who I am is bold faith, no fear, and I've said it for many years, that what you say after the words I am is really who you become and who you are in that moment. So it's very important to take care of your words. Speak what you want, not what you don't want. And leading from that, who I am is bold faith, no fear. And I'm outrageously courageous. So that
Mm-hmm.
leads me to my third book that I will be writing called Outrageously Courageous, Bold Faith, No Fear, Step Towards the Gun. Because I actually had that experience where I was robbed at gunpoint. Give me your purse, give me your keys. I stepped towards the gun and I said, "You need love." And they ran. And I believe that is because of who I had no fear. And I believe it's because I had said who I am is bold faith, no fear. And who I am is outrageously courageous. And so that'll be my third book coming out, both of those hopefully this year. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that it'll be fun to have three small books and have back of the room offerings, when I speak, offerings to outline through coaching. I do have a coaching program called and You're a Courageous Coach. And that's something I love doing. I feel like right now people are in so much fear, and I think we have opportunity to really grow out of that fear and into love, because all emotions, basically the source of emotions come from either love or fear. And I would love to encourage people to see how they can shift out of the fear, because if you're in fear, you get stifled. And I love that my coaching program is courageous. I help you learn to be courageous so that you can stand in your authority to live a life of complete peace. And I do believe, for the most part, I live in complete peace, and I want other people to have that as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What is your process when you're writing a book? Do you outline it? Do you dictate it? Do you have somebody interview you? Do you type it? What is the system that seems to work best for you?
Systems is not my strong point. So I'm really, I when I finally sit down and start, it's usually on the computer in a Word document and just start typing. I have 16 chapters of the 31 daily practices for split second transformation, and I wrote those last year and haven't picked it back up. But when I do, I will just, it just starts flowing. My apologies. I have a landline and I don't know how to not have it. It's been here for 25 years. So please, sorry about that.
Okay.
You'll cut in a second.
Is the 31 number based on the number of days in a month? Is that how you came up with that?
Yes. I've had some books that I've had that I've read many months over and over and over and over. They just have the 31 little snippets. And I felt like it might be in our world where people are going so fast and they want Twitter-sized information. So it will be just one of them is watching your words. All of it is watching your words, but split second transformation. You can have split second meditation. You can have split second and oh man, drawing a blank on my book. but there's just a lot of things that I feel like we can do that don't take as long as we think they do.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes just shifting that word, shifting that mindset. What if you change your words from I'm so tired, I'm so tired, I'm so tired to I'm refreshed, I'm energized, I'm pumped. And it literally changes the atmosphere when you change your words.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I feel like if you had a daily reminder of that you could read it over and over, just pick the thing that day seems to mean something to you.
It's an interesting model. And what I immediately think of is the books that I grew up with as being raised as a Methodist, where there was a daily spiritual passage. And they were small books, you're right. They were not long sections. There may be a quote from the Bible and then the lessons that the author of that little book felt were important for us based on the scripture that we had just read. I think there's an appeal to having something that's brief, that you can go through quickly and then ponder it. And it sounds to me like that's the model that you've picked for that book.
Yes, it is. And even the Candy Bar Hugs book is very short chapters. I mean, they're just little bits of encouragement, little stories of different places that I was able to hug people, and other stories are filtered in there as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's another important element that you just brought up, is weaving stories into your book to engage people, to make them feel like you are relatable, and hopefully they're connected to the points that you want to make, and people will remember those points better because they can associate it with a story.
I had yes, and so truly, and I gave it away, my book, as a door prize somewhere, and this girl, apparently, I didn't really know it at the time, but she felt like she had to have it, and she ran up and ended up getting one from somebody at my table. I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but I got an email from her. And I've never met her. I don't know who she is, but she said, your book reminded me of who I am. Your book reminded me of my purpose. Your book reminded me of why I walked away from what I did and am doing what I'm doing now. And for such a small book, it was a huge,
Hmm.
it's a huge blessing to know, that you are impacted, or you have impacted someone.
What a special message for you to get.
It was so random because I I didn't know, and she said I heard the name and I had to have it, and she had walked away from a huge income something and trying to do a mission, and she was feeling really depressed, and so little small, it says it doesn't take much to make a difference, and it really does not take much to make a difference. Small things add up, and they lift, I believe in this time right now, if we can lift the entire environment, our energies to, just to, this is something I forgot to say. Really, the core message is unconditional love. Unconditional love. Love others. Love yourself. Love God. Love yourself. Love others without judgment, and start living in unconditional love, and our environment will change.
Mm.
Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And who you become. We don't, why do we feel like we have to judge everyone? Why are we being so divided and divisive? And I believe there's an agenda around that. And we're just going to stop it. We're just going to love people. And another little snippet, the harder they are to love, the more they need it. And that is a given. But, every one of us is a hurt 5-year-old child, 7-year-old child that just builds layer after layer of protection. I will never be hurt like that again. I will never be abused or humiliated like that again. And that everything we do from here on out is, every one of us is a hurt 5-year-old. We've got that hurt 5-year-old, 7-year-old child that something happened that we build a wall from then on out, that we will never be hurt like that again, or will never be humiliated like that again, or abused or whatever. And we build this wall of protection. And if we can just give compassion to someone and just know that that's where they're coming from, they maybe never healed that. And I do have a forgiveness release that I wrote, and that is in this book. And it says, I did what I did. I didn't do what I didn't do. I did all that I knew to do with what I knew at the time, just like you did and are doing in your life right now. I love you. And I believe it's a little more profound than it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly mean it when I say it. I actually wrote it in acknowledgement to my kids. And, we all do what we do, and we don't do what we don't do. And it's not about you, it's always, people do what they do because of who they are, not because of who you are. And that is, I believe it's an impactful little piece in this little tiny book. Lots of big messages.
It sounds like it. And I'm so pleased that you could spend some time with me to share your concept, to give us a model that we can consider of a small business card facsimile, but so much more durable and permanent. People throw out business cards. They don't throw out books. That's one of my mantras. I just mailed last week a whole bag full of business cards to my virtual assistant so that she could enter it into my database. They've been accumulating dust in my house. But if somebody handed me a book, I would be reading that book, holding on to that book, and then using that as a way to think about the person's expertise and contacting that individual when it was appropriate for what I needed in my business. I think the model that you're describing is very much like that. If our listeners want a copy of your book or to find out more about the services that you offer, where should they head?
Okay, the book is on Amazon at, Candy Bar Hugs. Doesn't take much to make a difference. The only other things you'll find on that if you start searching is candy bars. And Candy Bar Hugs, It Doesn't Take Much to Make a Difference by Charla Anderson, and Amazon for $5.55. It's also on Kindle, and it will be on Audible and Amazon Audio soon, I hope. And my email is charla@charlaanderson.com. charla@charlaanderson.com. That's CHARLA. And my phone, I have an 800 number, 888-788-4153, 888-788-4153. If anyone wants to have a free conversation about perhaps living in fear or having some encouragement coaching, courageous coaching, and just leave me a message there. And if you email me at charla@charlaanderson.com, I have an amazing page of declarations that I'd be happy to share. And right now, my website is charlaanderson.com, a little bit under construction, so we're still working on that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for being part of the show and for sharing your philosophy. I know that you'll be eager to go back into the world when the restrictions are raised and you can start giving out candy bars and candy bar hugs again.
Lots of hugs are going to have to accumulate. I've been accumulating, right? I'm going to be free.
That's
absolutely.
Right.
And I just think you've got a great platform here, and I really am excited. The Writing to Get Business, and this is exactly what this is, and it's not so intimidating to write a small book like this.
Mm-hmm.
4,000 to 5,000 words is max, and for that, so I really think I encourage your listeners to actually consider doing that. A big book, a little, it's intimidating, a little overwhelming. So.
Well, as I'm thinking about the word count that you're talking about, 4,000 words is probably 10 blog posts, 10 400-word blog posts. And then you add an intro and an outro and your author information, you can easily get to that amount if you've been blogging for any length of time.
Exactly. I've noticed, I've really been thinking about doing that and actually putting them out as blog posts on my other book. I probably should do that too. It's a great idea. And they don't, it's just not hard to get all those things lined up in a small book.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Charla. I appreciate you being a guest on the show. And I appreciate you, the person who's either watching this video on our YouTube channel or listening to it on any of the audio channels. We'll have another interview next week, and we appreciate you being part of the show.
Thank you so much. It's been a huge pleasure.